Good day, folks. Welcome to 406 Regen. Today we're going to discuss bale grazing versus unrolling the hay on your pastures or fields. Now, for those of you who don't know, bale grazing would be setting a bale up like this here and letting the animals eat it. And then they'll tear it down. They'll get it all in a pile like it is at the moment. And they'll trample that in the ground, put their manure on it, and your bale, these are about 1,500 pound average bales, it's going to be in this kind of a radius, your impact. Now the animals will impact a little bit further out, but all the nutrients from the hay, it's all going to be dense in, this radius like that right there. As far as unrolling hay, if you do it right, you can unroll bales. You can get them in strips that are, quite long, longer than that. That was just me pitchforking it over. But if I was to unroll the hay, it would be like that. So unrolling is what we're going to do probably about 85-90% of the time, just to help spread out the animal impact and to make sure there's more ground cover, an even amount of ground cover out here at the moment. Because if I was to dig down, this wasn't hayed last year, this ground, at all. And now that's as tall as, that's as tall as the grass got. That's, my smartphone is about that same length. So we need ground cover. We need to impact the ground, which is why the sheep are up here and doing it this way. And that brings questions to, well, why do you want to impact the ground? Why do you need to make it better? Why can't you just bring in all your hay and for someone else and feed like all the commercial operations? Well, it's because I'm trying to do mine debt-free, and I'm managing at a different level than what most commercial places are going to be as far as the grazing. A different management style. Doing it this way, unrolling hay and spreading it out, that's going to help improve my grass. It'll make it grow taller, and it'll make it grow better. So it'll cut down on my feeding bills in the wintertime. Management. But is there a time when we'll bale graze? Absolutely, there's a time you should do that. When you really need to shock the system and there's really nothing growing there. So if you got a really weedy patch, or back east, thickets, brambles, thorns, stuff like that, or out here you end up on a hilltop where all the nutrients are just blowed away, there's just nothing there. If you bale graze, in bale grazing you might have, depending on the size of the operation, you could have 30 bales in a line where the animals hit and I'll trample it down, or it could be one. That's scalable to the size of your operation. But on a very bad spot like that, you're going to get a good amount of thatch down to help hold back the weeds, and hopefully the nutrients, it'll grow up with the grasses, will be able to come through, but it'll slow down the weeds in the thickets and brambles. Because a lot of weeds, if the nutrients are right in your ground, those weeds won't grow. So that's kind of the game, is you want to get sure your nutrients are right to where your grass grows, but the thistles won't, or whatever weed you're trying. You got to figure out why that weed is there, what your ground is lacking, and get that mineral heavily in that spot, so it'll slow them down, so the animals will be able to keep up, and eventually they won't grow. They won't be a problem. Out here we have a hard time with Canadian thistle. if you plow up your ground. If you run a discant, you plow it up, weeds. I mean, Mother Nature, that's the first thing that's going to shoot up is weeds, thistles. The grass out here suppresses those. If you destroy the ecosystem and the biology that's in your grass, I mean, the earth's going to cover itself one way or another. If you're not doing a good job, something's going to move in that is going to do a better job of management than you are, whether you believe that to be true or not. But as far as what should you do, on-roll or bale graze, it depends on the area. They're both very good. If you got a good field, you just want to help bump it up, on-roll. You don't need to shock the system that hard with bale grazing. Like I said, if you're in a real bad spot, you need to shock that system. Bale grazing to where the animals will trample a lot of this carbon down and get a good thatch down, get it growing good, and you'll be, from what I've understood and what I've learned watching other people's doing it, they're always shocked over the amount of grass they can do. And unrolling too. Unrolling will help speed up the process. Like I say, if you got decent fields, different pastures, you want to unroll it. The bale grazing, something you don't have to hit. Now on your worst ground, use bale grazing and experiment with it. This regenerative egg movement there's some principles to it, but you still got to experiment and get better for your area. Alrighty, folks, I guess that'll kind of do it for me on unrolling versus bale grazing. Like I say, we're going to be doing about 85 to 90% unrolling it, and here and there we'll bale graze. Like that bale over there in front of the shed, that was bale grazed. They took that bale down in 2 days, and that's a very heavy thatch over there, which I'm probably going to have to go and fork and pit and spread it out a little bit, because that area's, I might not. Maybe I'll just leave that area for an experiment. But I know my ground doesn't necessarily have the organisms to be able to take all that carbon in that thick out here. I don't get that kind of rainfall or that size of life, so anyway. Somebody decided he wasn't getting attention. He's going to soak in the sun. Alright, folks. Have a good one.